Ba-ba-ba-boom.
And I have my bandwidth turned like middle, but not all the way down.
Okay.
Just if it starts getting all jumpy, like I'm not doing anything else, so then it shouldn't be a problem. We never had that problem on my PC though, I'm just saying.
Just saying. Wait, what didn't you have?
Remember last week I was like freezing and you guys were getting all jumpy and stuff?
Yeah?
And so I had to turn down my bandwidth.
Actually, that did happen on your PC before.
Oh, well, maybe I didn't know about it then.
Because I do remember asking you to do that like a month ago.
Oh, I
Or
see when you
a couple
asked me this
months.
time, I was like, I don't think I've ever done that before. But my PC was special. I'm gonna also turn my Wi thing.
Plus partial.
Okay. As soon as the heater turns off, we'll go live.
Have you, either of you, seen... Well, actually, Aaron, you probably wouldn't have unless you've updated to Yosemite finally. And by finally, I mean in the last week.
Nope.
Do you occasionally, Daniel, get a pop-up that says... Or did you at some point get one that said to view this web content, update the Java runtime environment, blah, blah, blah?
I think I have seen something like that.
You may have just done it, whereas I was stubborn, and I've been like, no, until I know what is triggering this message, like what web content, because I don't know of anything that's supposed to be loading, so I didn't want to update it. Turns out it's the Facebook video chat plugin, which apparently comes up at random times, because I'll be watching something full screen and that stupid message will just appear. I had to fix it for somebody today, so I finally found out what it was. Like, oh, now I know how to kill it.
You can get a college diploma in transportation engineering. That's ridiculous.
I think the people who build your roadways and bridges would disagree.
Well, we're not live yet, right?
We are.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Never mind.
Hey,
Hi, everybody.
Ethan Hawke was some kind of transportation engineer.
And look how he turned out.
Yeah.
I don't know what that
All
You
cool and Tom
You
Cruise
put
like.
me with my current job in a room with a transportation engineer and let us hash out what the problem is with our roadways. I bet you I'm gonna win. Sorry, I was just looking at a
That's
job
funny.
ad.
Well, maybe some of the roads you don't like were not. No one with a degree was consulted.
Maybe.
Not
All
that
right.
I
Maybe
believe
somebody
in
with a degree
degrees all
was
the time.
consulted in that.
Right. Well, that could be.
Aaron, go ahead and start your recording.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
All right. Why did I launch that? Oh, yeah.
Guys, I need to pick a new name, and I have two, and I'm trying to decide between them. So
You
there's...
Mine,
Pick the second.
you should pick Pirate Mascot because mine is Charming Sapphire.
Pirate Mascot was definitely one of them. It will be... That will be my name for a little while, and then when I remember the other one, I'll probably switch, because I think I liked it better.
Okay. Here we go. You guys ready?
Sure.
Yes.
All right. 3, 2, 1. You're listening to Once, episode 186, Enter the Dragon. Welcome back to another episode of Once, the unofficial podcast for ABC's TV show Once Upon a Time. I'm Daniel J. Lewis.
I'm Jeremy Laughlin.
I'm Erin.
Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to talk about this episode, Enter the Dragon. And I know, well, you might not be as obsessive over this as I am, but a lot of people are confused about the timeline with this episode, the flashbacks of it. So before we talk about the past, as we normally do, I want to try to just address some of the timeline issues of this episode.
I just want to say the past is in the past. Let it go.
I can't. It's always bothered me anyway. When we first see Regina in that barn, a scene that we'll get to talking about in just a moment.
Where she was not raised, by the way.
Right. We see Snow riding on a horse.
We do.
Or
probably a stunt double.
It's Jennifer Goodwin's voice. So it's adult Snow's voice. And it looks more like adult Snow riding the horse. But yeah, it's probably more like a stunt double. But we don't actually see her. So most likely the age here, I know some in the community have thought that maybe this happened when Snow was about 18 years old, which I think complicates things even more. But I would say she's probably a teenager at this point, maybe 14 years old or so. And they didn't want to get Bailey Madison for just, hey, would you ride on a horse across this scene for us, please? That's all we need you for.
Yeah.
That's it. So I'm going to guess this is maybe 2 or so years after Regina married King Leopold.
Sure.
And
I have no objection to that.
And in this episode, I'm thinking, well, it's definitely after the events of We Are Both, which is where Regina first started to learn magic from Rumpel, because that was the wedding time. So it's definitely after those events.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's also after The Doctor. Because if you remember the episode The Doctor, that's where Regina struggled with her distraction about wanting to bring Daniel back from the dead. And that was really distracting her heavily. And she looked young then, and she was in the stable girl outfit then. She's in that same kind of stable girl outfit in this episode.
Right, but they didn't make her look as much younger.
Right. And in this episode, she's wearing a red cape almost the whole time over that stable girl outfit. And they've said, Eduardo Castro, who is a genius with the costumes on this show, has said that they've always had this plan that they change Regina's colors and outfits as she becomes more and more evil. The outfits and colors used in this show are very symbolic of a lot of things. Yeah. And like when Regina is in her most evil state, she's wearing a lot of red and not red, but a lot of black. Yeah. Early on state, she's wearing more red. So in this episode, she is wearing red.
Blue kind of to start out with. That's kind of what I think of.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking because she's wearing that red cape, this is a little bit further along, that she's had more time to really grow contentious against Snow. So this is probably after the events of The Doctor. But I think it's definitely before the events of Darkness on the Edge of Town, because that's when Rumpel gets the 3 witches to help him steal the Dark Curse. And Maleficent is totally in control then. She's not a druggie then. So that would be after this.
I agree.
Clear as mud?
See, yeah, I wasn't all that confused. Nothing was presented that really stood out to me as in any way inconsistent timeline-wise.
Well, there are some continuity problems, but we'll get into those more later on.
One in particular.
Seriously, ABC, we've got someone
should I say
on the podcast.
Particular.
We've got someone on the podcast team that would be excellent as a continuity expert for you. You've heard her before. Rumpel's girl is totally available. She's willing. She'd love to do it. Contact us if you want her to be part of your team.
She doesn't sleep? Ever?
Right. Perfect person for the job, because she's our forum moderator too. But so let's get into talking about this episode. Starting out with this scene that's happening there in the barn. All of those trophies. Yeah, and I love the irony of the thing about the horse. And Rumpel loves pointing out the irony.
There was more irony there, I felt too, because I just thought it was funny, because I know that Jennifer Goodwin had quite a horse accident in when they were filming, I think it was episode 2 of this series, and ended up having to get stitches and go back to set the same day. They talked about it in the commentary. And so So it's even more ironic when you add that in.
Why do you suppose Cora would have had a book that belonged to Maleficent?
Cora? Did they say that? That Cora had it?
Regina's mother. She said she got it from her mother.
Huh. Because she got Rumpel's book from her mother, too.
Right.
Her
Well,
mother was very much obsessed with magic.
and magic books, apparently.
Yeah. So
And
maybe
doesn't keep them safe.
maybe Cora would go around not only stealing hearts, but stealing books too.
Right.
Stealing
we
hearts and knowledge.
we think Cora was not a friend of Maleficent.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, we don't really know anything about any relationship they might have had, do we?
No.
Maleficent seems to not age.
Oh, that's kind of true.
So it's possible that Cora and Maleficent had some friendship or frenemyship going on before.
Yeah, and we could see that if that becomes relevant. We could see it if they ever give us the backstory of this backstory, like the Sleeping Beauty backstory, because that timing wise would probably line up if Aurora and Regina are actually pretty close to the same age, which
That
is
could be cool.
kind of weird, but
But I feel like they don't have a need to necessarily show us that story. They've alluded to it enough times that it might not be something they actually need to show us. Like most of the other fairy tales as we know them, like Cinderella, for example. We just did the movie review of Cinderella. If you haven't listened to that yet, go over to oncepodcast.com/184, where Jenny and I reviewed Cinderella. And in the episode, The Price of Gold, they talked, they showed Cinderella, but they showed everything like outside of the main events. So I wouldn't be surprised if they don't show us the Sleeping Beauty main events.
true. I love about this scene. I just love whenever we go back to flashbacks and Lana Parrilla is playing young Regina. I just love her ability to change even her voice, like even just the octave that she speaks at to make herself sound younger. She does that every time. It's so easy for us to pick up kind of what age she is and what's happening with her voice. So I know that that's not necessarily a skill that all actors have. She's probably one of the only ones on the show that does that, and I always enjoy just like, oh, okay, we're back to young now.
That's true.
Yeah, she does do a great job at that. And she's also pretty good at making friends, like when she met Maleficent. It surprised me, and not only me, but many other people, that Maleficent is basically a druggie. And what's
Yeah, it's sleeping curse. As if that's not enough. The toadstool.
and seawater.
Toadstool might be enchanted forest speak for something else.
Well, a lot of people in the forums are a little bit disturbed by this because this is supposed to be a family show, and here they have basically drug use going on.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, that's not exactly how I took it, because she seemed slightly more inebriated than high to me.
Yeah, I didn't
no
take
expert.
it as that either the first time. I even said when she said takes the edge off, I was like, what consequences are you taking off there with that? Like by diluting it. It made me think of the burning red room, and like maybe she doesn't have to go there because she diluted the curse.
One would think.
I think though by this flashback that we can be pretty clear on the timeline by Maleficent's crimped hair that this flashback took place in the 80s.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. This is why you have a girl on your podcast, right?
Exactly. Yeah. We want to know, what hairstyle is that? Briar Rose was mentioned throughout this episode, and Briar Rose is actually one of the names of the original Sleeping Beauty. It was
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Well,
both
it's
Briar Rose
yeah.
and Aurora were names for the original Sleeping Beauty, depending on which stories
Oh.
that you actually look at as the original texts.
Here we've
Well,
been so Disneyfied lately, I forgot to even think about original stories.
well, and in the Disney animated Sleeping Beauty, Briar Rose is what they call her when they are undercover.
Right.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Or just Rose for short.
But here, Briar Rose is the mother and Aurora is the daughter. But yet, at the same time, they used King Stefan, which is not in the fairy tales. That's what Disney used with
Mm-hmm.
the Angelina Jolie Maleficent movie. That's where King Stefan comes in. And that name as well.
Mm.
Or no, wait, I think,
No.
Aaron, I think we're losing your audio.
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there you are.
Oh,
Actually, let me correct that because I left something out.
I think it was just a robot burping.
Actually, I'll just redo that later. So remove that thing about King Stefan
Remove that thing.
because I've got more on that later.
Have I been clicking? I'm trying to just tap.
I think I don't know. I haven't been paying attention.
Okay. That's good.
It's kind of crazy that in this episode, it seems so opposite of what happened in the second episode of Once Upon a Time, The Thing You Love Most, when Regina went to visit Maleficent to steal the Dark Curse, and they had this little banter back and forth. Regina basically was surprised that that sleeping curse could be broken by just a simple kiss.
Do you think in that episode they were actually drinking a concoction that involved sleeping curse?
Maybe they were. And in this episode, Maleficent actually said that this sleeping curse was broken by true love's kiss. So Regina should have known that when she got the sleeping curse from Maleficent. This is a continuity error, basically. There's no way to explain this that matches with the story. It's a continuity error. Yeah, that kind of stuff happens.
but didn't Regina? This is going back a long time. I haven't watched season one for a while, but didn't Regina have a plan to keep Charming from Snow at that time too? Like she was holding Charming hostage.
Well, Charming was held hostage until Snow would agree to take the apple.
Okay.
And that
Oh,
brings up
yeah.
another continuity problem we'll get into later.
Oh goodness.
I'm sorry, which scene are we on?
Okay, we're moving on.
From?
From meeting Maleficent.
Okay, good. Then thumbs up.
From the guy that, well, let me say that differently. From that random guy in the carriage that Regina met along the road, we got a nice little hint of locations here. That Maleficent's kingdom is 2 kingdoms away from King Leopold's kingdom, which
We-
is part of the Enchanted Forest.
We almost have enough information to make a board game.
It'll be
Whose
like
kingdom?
Settlers of Enchanted Forest.
Whose kingdom is in the middle? Do we know?
That would be, yeah, that is King Stefan's
King
kingdom.
Stefan. Okay.
Because that carriage actually had the crest of King Stefan, but that wasn't the king there, or he might have been some kind of noble or someone that was part of the royal family, or the part of the castle in some way, because it was bearing that logo, but he didn't have any kind of escort, so he's not someone of high nobility.
Right. So good on Regina for not accepting a ride from a stranger.
Yeah.
Plus, she was rather angry on Maleficent's behalf and had to go back, which, you spoke about how she changes her voice. And part of what I thought was interesting, both in Lana Paria's performance and the writing, was how Regina sort of oscillates between this sort of forceful person, this confident person, telling Maleficent what she needs to do. And then when she's challenged, she kind of backs off and gets timid again. And it's just sort of a nice bridge between the girl that she used to be and the evil queen that she became.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Plus, somehow, random dude gave her the wedding invitation, which was made of silver. I think that silver wedding invitations are a great idea, and they should actually be done.
I like it. It's expensive.
Yeah.
They should be gold.
They should be.
Yeah. But not the kind that you touch and then you turn into it.
Yeah, that's what Midas sent
Yeah.
out for his.
His kingdom must be on the other side of the map.
Aaron, you have more to say on this point?
No, I'm good. Sorry.
Okay. Jeremy, you're clicking.
Sorry.
So they go to reignite the fire inside you, reignite the dragon inside you. And
Sounds like a Snickers commercial.
it's kind of odd that when Maleficent attacked this village that used to be here, that she poured herself out so much that she lost her ability after that, but she left a burning bush there.
Well, it's like residual magic.
Well, because magic can never, what's the quote from earlier? And magic can never
Yeah,
dissipate. It can only change in form.
yeah, it can never be destroyed. It can only change forms. Yeah, that's true.
So basically, here's what's happening in Maleficent's head. Regina tells her about this tree, and outwardly she's like, so there's a tree that's still burning. So what? And inside she's like, oh, wow, I dropped my magic, and I never thought to look there. That's where it is. She was just embarrassed. She didn't want to say.
She probably just never looked out the window. I mean, you saw how depressed and, disoriented she seemed. She probably never even opened the windows.
Like, it's always the last place you look.
We do
She,
get to go ahead.
she probably also, maybe she thought that her magic had disappeared into the burning red room.
Yeah.
So many things in this episode reminded me of that, and I know how much Jeremy hates talking about it. So I just have to keep bringing it up.
Well, hey, the way... If she was going to the burning red room, I predict that maybe she was having a disco there.
It sounds like something like teenagers would do. Like, hey, let's have a near-death experience. Hey, let's all prick ourselves with the sleeping curse and we can go to the burning red room whenever we want. Hey, let's go light a police car on fire. Hey, here, aspirin, this helps in the morning.
She's a bad influence on every living thing.
Yep.
Yeah, she, at one of our pieces of feedback, I think it was Fee, actually called Maleficent emo Maleficent. And she
Emo
is basically,
Maleficent.
yeah, in this whole episode, she's kind of all emo, like, sort of. We do get to meet King Stefan here, and his name, by the way, is from both the Disney cartoon version of Sleeping Beauty as well as the new Disney Maleficent movie with Angelina Jolie. King Stefan, though, is nowhere in the original stories or fairy tales, at least by that name. Yes, there is a king.
Regardless of where you emphasize your syllables in the name.
Right. Stefan. But by the way, a little interesting side note here. As a kid, I was writing a science fiction action novel. I'd written several chapters of this, and the villain of this novel was going to be named Alexander James Stefan.
The square jawed.
Yeah, but I spelled it differently. But I never got to that part in the book where I actually wrote him in. He was just part of my plans because I just thought it was a really cool name, Alexander James Stefan. It sounds like a bad guy.
3 first names,
Yeah.
just like Michael Raymond James.
Ooh. There's a connection there.
Or Daniel J. Lewis.
Nope.
Except the J actually stands for something.
Which is also a first name.
Yes, it is. Or middle name. So this place, this desolate place, was this not the same location as dried up Lake Nostos?
Yes. That's what I was thinking.
If I just looked at the ground, which is probably not really, they really want you to focus, I felt that previously we might have seen battles with Cora and Hook and Emma and Snow in that location. Not that it really was in the story. I just think that it's sort of this
Right.
strange place they've found that.
It couldn't be in the story because this is before David went to Lake Nostos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lake
I didn't
Nostos
think it was
dried up.
actually supposed to be. It was just funny.
Yeah, it dried up probably sometime during the curse, maybe even dried up because of the curse, the original Dark Curse. But yeah, they reuse props, they reuse scenes and sets and
Yeah.
such.
Well, and part of the reason why they film in BC is for the Enchanted Forest. So then to have to find a desolate place in the same place that they're filming purposefully because there's a forest might be a little complicated to find exactly what you need without having to reuse locations.
Right. If you don't actually have a dragon to clear some land, it's kind of difficult.
Tend to frown upon that in Canada too. I don't know what's wrong with them, but
The dragons aren't allowed in Canada.
no.
Did it strike either of you as funny that Regina was able to do a great fireball attack at first, and then after that really successful confidence building burst of flame, then she got scared and fizzled out?
She got distracted, I think.
Yeah. It's tied to your emotions. She probably was like, "Whoa, that was awesome." And then
Hope I can do it
Insane.
again. Oh, I can't do it
And then
again.
failed. Hey, speaking of failed, what was it that's not a segue?
Thank you for not segueing into thanking sponsors.
I think everyone now thinks that whenever I say speaking of, they're expecting me to segue to thanking our sponsors. No, I'll do that. Speaking of our sponsor, no. What was it, do you think that was the background to Keen Stefan saying something about failing with Briar Rose?
see,
Well, she woke up, so I consider that a
Yeah.
failure.
because there was some comment made, like, I don't know why I think this. I can't remember the context, but for some reason I know that Aurora's mom was in the sleeping curse too.
Right.
Yeah, they explained that when Aurora was first introduced
But that's
back
all
in
we got.
season 2, the part that I guess we'll speak of.
Yeah, and also in this episode, Maleficent did say, and that was part of the thing that was about the sleeping curse, when Maleficent and Regina met, Maleficent did say that she used a sleeping curse on Briar Rose, and it was broken with a true love's kiss.
Maybe I'm
Yeah.
gonna read the original Sleeping Beauty.
It's just that family tends to speak about it in slightly grandiose terms. So you have Stefan saying you failed, and which I suppose is somewhat appropriate, but you have Aurora saying my mother defeated you by being helpless and being kissed and waking up, that she defeated you because she had true love.
Okay,
Defeated was kind of the wrong word.
so maybe I had this in my notes earlier and then we couldn't segue, but the one scene really reminded me of the book The Paper Bag Princess. Do you know that book, guys?
No.
So
No.
I think it's because it's a Canadian, but there's an author named Robert Munch, and he does all of these amazing books. And the Paper Bag Princess is basically the princess is going to try and save the prince. I'm going to spoil the book for everybody,
Oh
but
gosh.
she basically outsmarts the dragon by making the dragon use up all of its power and energy until it falls asleep. And then she just walks over the dragon and goes and opens the dungeon and lets her prince out. So she's like, "Oh, can you fly around the world in just 10 seconds?" And then the dragon does it, and then it's too tired to do it again. And can you burn up 100 forests with just one breath? And then the dragon does it, and then over and over again, and then the dragon can't do it anymore. So maybe the desolate land where Maleficent lost her power has something to do with Briar Rose.
What a terrible princess. She had 100 forests burned up just to save one person.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's okay.
And then my favorite part of the book is that at the end, she saves the prince, and he goes, because she's only wearing a paper bag, right? Because all the clothes got burnt up.
Oh, awkward.
And he goes, "You don't look like a real princess. Come back when you're dressed like a real princess." And then she left him because he was a bum. So
Wow.
After all that.
All those forests.
yeah.
Or Aurora is preparing for her wedding. And in our initial reactions, I did say something about thinking that Aurora let herself be pricked or like pricked herself to avoid Prince Philip. But I think, Jeremy, you did rightly point out that when Maleficent referred to having some special curse for Prince Philip, it was the Yagwai curse.
Yep.
And now rewatching this, I can see clearly, yes, Maleficent did intentionally prick Aurora with that needle.
She did?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that. Well, I may have to take some things back then.
It was the same needle that Maleficent was using on herself to take the edge
Oh,
off.
I
Oh,
see.
well, that's just not fun.
Which, by the way, I kind of kept having the impression of that scene that she was taking her blood and putting it in a drink. So maybe there are some connotations there that weren't so amazing. In this case, I could have sworn both times I watched it that she waved her hand and Aurora fell asleep.
Nope.
Oh,
No, I
I
don't
was
think
all
so.
set to say, why didn't the sleeping curse require a prick this time? Blah, 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 blah. And okay, apparently it did. But she just
Well,
used some sleight of hand or something on me. I don't know.
let's talk about this because
Okay.
there are some, some minor continuity errors here. This is Aurora in a completely different palace, presumably, from where we saw her in the episode Broken.
Yep.
Yeah, they could have moved her.
Yeah, okay.
And also changed her and dyed her hair.
Yes, she's wearing something completely different.
I mean, would you not?
Maybe.
Maybe it's too sad to see her in her. Was she in a glass thing?
No.
No.
No, she was. She was just out in the open,
Yeah.
exposed to the elements, which
Yeah,
makes
but protected by thorns.
okay, cool. But regardless of how you decide to display the poor, helpless, sleeping person, because somehow that honors them, you might be too sad to see her in her wedding dress every day.
Was that her wedding dress?
No, her wedding dress was actually hanging up.
Well, that girl needed to
near
get
the
a
mirror.
move on.
So
Yeah, because that
She
dress
was going to be
blue.
late. Okay, well then, who knows?
If
Yeah,
they
it would have
like,
been.
it
Would
would
have
have
been
been.
cooler.
Jeremy.
You go.
Jeremy.
What?
Okay.
Oh.
Aaron, you say what you want to say.
It would have been funny discontinuity if Aurora was in a dress just like that, but pink when she was woken up because of the whole pink, blue, make it blue from the animated cartoon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But it was purple in a totally different dress, and her hair was a different color, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. And wearing different jewelry, too.
Yeah.
Like all kinds of things that were different about this. And several of our listeners did point this out, like Jessica Olsen and Keb pointed this out. But there are some other continuity problems here. And this is storyline continuity, not just prop
Well,
continuity.
just to sidestep on even the costume continuity, they've done what I would consider to be slightly contrived connecting the dots, but at least they tried before. For example, there was this whole backstory leading up to Charming going to wake Snow up, but he was wearing different clothes up until that point. So then they threw in a little bit about Rumple just changing his entire wardrobe before he rides off to rescue Snow to make him look like a prince.
Yeah.
But at least
Yeah.
that connects the dots, even if it's a little bit silly. I don't know why they would not try here unless there's something we're missing.
Well, here's what Jessica Olsen said. I know she could have been dressed up after Maleficent put her to sleep, but there are other things that seem like there's something missing in that story still. For one, she told Philip previously in season 2, I told you not to come after me, which implies she knew she was putting herself at risk and either talked with or sent a message to Philip before it happened. Which it doesn't seem like that is what happened in this episode. Also, this didn't really strike me as the self-sacrifice she talked about in season 2 as well. Here, and this is my speaking here. Thank you, Jessica, for that feedback. Here, this is Maleficent pricking Aurora, with Aurora having no say in the matter whatsoever.
Right.
Here's the other continuity, or Keb pointed this out. What they've said before about the sleeping curse is that it has to be taken willingly. And remember Aurora's whole thing about sacrifice as well.
I forgot about
So
that.
maybe before she did have to take it willingly. Remember, the evil queen had to get Snow to eat the apple willingly.
No, yeah.
And Prince Charming, when he went under the sleeping curse, they had to have him prick the spindle willingly.
Which I'm not entirely sure why they have chosen to make that a condition, apparently, if it's going to be so hard to meet. Because we've seen other... Is that an original, let's say, Snow White component? Because in Disney's version, she was... I mean, she ate the apple on purpose, but she was sort of... She wasn't aware of what was going to happen.
I think, I can't remember quite the Disney version here, but I think it was something kind of like that where Snow had to accept it. Like it couldn't just be cast on her. I
Right.
think.
Yeah.
But I might be getting that wrong, or they might have not mentioned it at all. So yeah, some continuity problems. That's gonna happen sometimes 4
Nope.
seasons in.
Nope.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Do
One-
better. We know you can.
One crazy thing, though, as we're talking about the sleeping curse and the red apples, there was a tray in Aurora's room full of red apples. Apples red as blood, even.
Oh, yes.
Well, the apple curse hasn't happened yet, right? So Aurora doesn't
Right.
know.
Yeah, just a nice little irony thing. There is irony everywhere.
So Aurora is really even older than Snow? But because she was in the sleeping curse for so long?
Technically, well, she's probably only a few years older.
Right.
Because the way that the original Sleeping Beauty, well, the story that Disney told anyway, is that when Aurora turns 16. But in this, Aurora is about to get married, so she's probably at least 18.
Maybe, yeah.
And that's probably just a couple or few years older than Snow is at this point. So I think they're pretty close in age.
Even though they're like 10 or more years apart now in age. If she stayed that age and Snow continued to age for the rest of the Enchanted Forest story.
Right. Yeah. So technically, Aurora is now psychologically younger, or like brain time passing younger,
Yeah.
because she spent a lot of time unconscious.
Which is so
Yeah.
obvious most of the time.
I'm just surprised because I'm pretty sure the actress who plays Aurora was like 19 when she started on this show, and Snow was like 30 something.
Yeah. Sarah Bolger is the one that plays
Yeah.
Aurora. Back at the barn again, I enjoyed just seeing Rumple like hanging out on the gate and just being pushed and Swan there.
Yeah, I liked a lot of things about their conversation. Regina realizing, albeit her motives not being great, but she realizes that she's had a good teacher when she realizes that she was actually able to go out and coach somebody as powerful as Maleficent. I also liked, even though they've kind of made this connection before, but you have two stories that are fairly prominent in the show, and they both involve sleeping curses, and I like that there's actually a connection instead of just being a coincidental thing, that Snow White was put to sleep because of influence from Maleficent, who had done it so famously.
Right.
Yeah.
It took me 2 watches, and I hope that I'm assuming this right now, to realize, because I was like, I thought Regina liked the horses, and then I realized she's doing that to Snow White's horse.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was, and then it wasn't until literally just now I was reading I thought Regina liked her horses note, and then I'm like, oh, because it was Snow's horse who was like winning all the prizes and
Right.
making her so famous.
Thus ended Snow White's career as a valued horsewoman.
I don't know why it won't wake up. This doesn't make any sense.
Hey, but speaking of valued prizes and people, I want to thank some people who made this episode of the podcast possible. Thank you very much. You are valued and prized to us. David Newland, Steve Johnson, and Lisa Slack, thank you very much for your continued automatic monthly donations. And we have 2 new contributors on Patreon, Tracy Anderson. Let me say that again. Tracy Anderson and Vicente Rios. Thank you very much for your kind contributions. And here's something really cool. I'm really excited to share this with you. On Patreon, the way it works is, currently at least, we have it set up where you contribute on a per episode basis. And we have different milestones of goals that we were trying to reach. And we've been able to upgrade features in the chat room and different places thanks to your contributions. And we just reached one of those milestones. And that is that soon, as these donations are actually sent to us through the Patreon system, soon we'll be able to upgrade our viewing experience so that when we're watching the show live on Sunday nights, we'll be able to see more of the details of the show and sometimes get a signal, which there have been several times before where we've lost signal while watching the show because we do it through an antenna. And we've just had to ask the chat room, what just happened there? Because we completely lost the signal. So thank you very much for your kind contributions through Patreon, through all of the options that we have at oncepodcast.com/sponsor. This will enable us to bring better content to you. So thank you. Thank you very much for being like co-producers with us and really making this podcast possible. One of the other things too, thanks to your donations, is I was able to spend some time with the website in the last couple of days, and I think I fixed the problem that the website kept crashing, especially on Sunday nights. If you tried to access the website on a Sunday night, I am so sorry. It kept crashing over and over. And even during our podcast recordings, I had to have this little thing open on my computer that I would see the moment it would crash, and I would reboot the server. It would crash, I'd reboot it. I'd have to do that a lot during the recording. So thank you very much for your kind donations. It's enabled us to fix some of these problems, upgrade things, make this all a better experience for you, and bring more content to you. So thank you. Thank you for this episode. Thank you, David, Steve, Lisa, Tracy, and Vicente. Thank you very much. If you'd like to be a contributor to Once Podcast, then please go to oncepodcast.com/sponsor to make a one-time donation, automatic monthly donation, which is what helps us the most, or a per episode donation through Patreon, as well as there are options there if you want to do your shopping on Amazon. Just click on our link first, and then that helps us as well, and it doesn't cost you anything. Thank you for your support. That's at oncepodcast.com/sponsor. So now let's move on to talking about the present day. And it starts out with this nice little meeting at Granny's as Regina comes, and apparently the way that she's a bad girl isn't, hey, let's go hurt some people, but hey, let's drink everything in Granny's shop.
Yeah.
So I didn't watch the show Desperate Housewives. However, as Regina approached the diner, that is what I thought of.
She does kind of dress, I think, like some of the people in that show. I
There's
didn't
just
watch it
this
either, but
Group of women and stuff happening. I don't know. They seem pretty desperate.
I was just thinking, not very inconspicuous to have your meeting at Granny's, but I didn't realize until the comment later in the episode that Granny's was actually closed.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because at first she walks in and they're like, "What are you doing here?" Well, it's a public place, but yeah, it was closed.
One of the odd things I noticed here is Maleficent teleported to in front of Regina,
That was pretty scary.
and she did it Rumpelstiltskin style.
And it was the last scary thing that happened in their whole proving of Regina's evilness.
There was no poof,
No poof.
no clouds. It wasn't quite exactly Rumple style. Like, if you want to get into the technical details, Rumple style is a very fast, short transition from one place to the
It was
other.
kind of a froosh and not a swipe.
Yeah, something like that. It was a little bit different, but it was very Rumple style. Definitely no smoke.
I think it was half a second slower than Rumple, but it was very fast.
So just interesting that she can do that. Maybe, though, that's because technically Maleficent is supposed to be a fairy. So
She is.
maybe she is magic born, kind of like Rumple is. now, I mean, being the Dark One, we can basically consider him magic born. His magic is inherited, not learned, most of it. Whereas Regina and Cora have learned their magic, so maybe the smoke poofing method is what you learn.
And maybe we are going to get a bigger Maleficent story at some point. Maybe just one episode long, but there's a lot that could still be explained about the Once Upon a Time Maleficent, like her history, why she would possibly be so difficult to kill all the way that she can be resurrected. That's still a big one they really need to give a good explanation for, because they've broken a pretty big rule with this one.
Yeah.
So, if they have a good enough story, I'm cool with it. But part of showing that nature could come through the story with Briar Rose somehow. There are a lot of cool things they could do. It doesn't mean they will, but the possibility's there.
I feel like they're kind of doing what they did to us with the Frozen, where we thought that Elsa was going to be the main villain, and it ended up that the Snow Queen was actually the villain, and Elsa, it was just portrayed that way through all of the like previews and spoilers and whatever, like, oh, it's going to be these three, Cruella, Ursula, Maleficent. But the last two episodes now, it seems like they could switch back and they could do like a Cruella and a Ursula backstory again, but it seems like now they're just sort of supporting villains and may not actually have as active a role as we thought they were. We might just wonder, like Greg and Tamara.
Right. Could be, but these are characters they've brought in to basically be season regulars. I mean, yeah, they did that with Elsa too, and I mean like half season regulars. Aaron, how about, do you want to mention what you have under that next scene? Because
Are we under
that's
I
the part
think
where I
I'm
put Aaron.
lost.
And
Aaron.
Oh, I didn't
all
know we
caps.
moved on there yet. Sorry.
Hmm.
Yeah. When Emma's talking to Charming about Regina's plan, I noticed her voice changes a lot too. Except unlike Regina, it's just kind of Emma. She does it all the time, and it's kind of just her temper tantrum voice. But it definitely gets an octave higher, and it's very like, well, you should have told me, Mom and Dad. Like, what are you thinking?
She
And
was
I-
doing that a lot this
yeah.
episode.
I love when Emma has temper tantrums because she does them very well, but she maybe needs to grow out of that sometime soon.
Right, which again, as much as I liked some of the stuff when Hook was lying to her, why wasn't she throwing temper tantrums then? That was some sudden maturity.
I think her senses are all going haywire, and she said that, and I think it's affecting her in multiple ways, and this is maybe one of those ways, in addition to her stupidity, which we'll talk about in a moment.
Speaking of stupidity, what in the heck? Or not Maleficent, but Cruella. Why? I don't understand this game. Cruella, your game does not make any sense. Don't be a hero. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think everyone watching this, like everyone, especially our listeners, because we have really smart listeners. You are really smart. So I think everyone was probably thinking the same thing, and that is Regina should have poofed herself out, because that would have shown, no, I'm not going to save you guys. I'm going to save myself.
Yeah.
It almost would have made more sense. I'm going to go ahead and suggest a rewrite, even though it's been produced and everything. If they had just parked there and said, we're going to go ahead and play a little game of chicken. Like, just call it chicken because it's chicken.
Yeah.
So then, it's like last one to poof loses or something like that, which would have sounded really childish. But hey, they've already been doing shots and then apparently driving. So, childish. But then if Regina saved all of them, poofed all of them, then it's sort of like, oh, look, you've gone soft. That was a test. You failed. That would have almost worked. It would have made a little more sense than, nope, the only way to win is to let everybody die, including yourself.
Yeah. And Matthew Paul pointed that out too, saying, how does saving themselves from an incoming train prove Regina's a bad girl? That didn't prove her innocence. It proved her self-preservation, which is something both heroes and villains would do.
Right. So I guess if she had passed the test, the other three would be dead.
Maybe, well, yeah, that's what Fee basically said too. And in addition, Fee said, what would have made sense is if they'd confined Regina to the train tracks and made her destroy the train and everyone on it in order to save herself, thus proving she's still willing to make others suffer so she can win.
That's definitely what I thought was going to happen. I thought they were going to say, you want to live? Derail the train.
Yeah.
Just do it.
I think they're trying to keep her integrity, and so they're thinking of things that will still allow us to think that she's still good.
Yeah, and that is the thing. I watched this, I think the second or third time when I watched this episode, I did try to look at it from the perspective of, is Regina going bad? Is she enjoying this? And I could see throughout the episode, no, she's not enjoying this whole bad girl thing. And she has moral problems with a lot of these things she's doing. But it's like a double agent. There are times that you have to make decisions that would normally go against your moral code in order to maintain the cover. Especially if you've ever played the game Splinter Cell Double Agent. I hated shooting the boss at the end. But it was okay. He was going to be okay.
Are you spoiling
sorry.
games that I haven't played, even though they've been around for like 15 years?
The Paper Bag Princess is done now. That game is out.
They're actually the same story.
But now Regina's in that same situation. She's having to do these things. And I will say she's doing these things as honorably as she can, but while still trying to maintain her cover.
That would have been another way to make the test make sense. Derail the train or save us, but one of those is clearly the soft option.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, Regina.
When Henry when Henry was reading a book, I just rewrote it to a child. Or someone with a bad cold. When Henry
Siblings.
Yeah, you just made me have to drink water.
when Henry was looking very closely at the book, I really wanted to see that there was some kind of clue or something. And we will have screenshots of what he saw through the magnifying glass, but I wouldn't say there are any extra clues other than what we pretty much already uncovered, that the door's from the hat room. But I like what Fee pointed out, saying, has no one thought to just flip the page over and see what's on the back of the picture of the door? The door picture was used to illustrate a story. There should be more of that story on the other side of the page, or even flip through the book to figure out where the page is missing from and look for clues in the surrounding pages. I think, yes, that's a great idea.
Surrounding pages do not go with the pictures in the book.
Exactly.
Actually.
Most of the time, and I've been very disappointed with this, most of the time when I have obsessed over screenshots of the book, the story that we see is most of the time either the Golden Bird or Red Riding Hood and Snow White, or I forget the actual name of it, but it's not Little Red Riding Hood story. It's
Rose
a different.
Red.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah,
Rose
Rose
Red
Red.
and Snow.
So, yeah, did that frustrate anybody else as a child when you'd be reading a book and there were illustrations, but they were not near the part of the text that they were illustrating?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That always frustrated me.
Yeah, so I'm not so sure just turning the page. Although sometimes they have done it that way in this book, where the story on the other side is it. Like the pictures with Pinocchio, but yes, August added that. There have been other stories that the pages with the text did match the photo that was right next to them.
I think in real life that happens when you reprint a book and it already has original pictures, but then the words are in different order.
Yeah.
Or when you translate a book, so maybe the book has been translated and reprinted.
Also, I think the back of this page is blank.
I think
So
so.
there goes that whole story idea.
Well, we should find the author and ask him why he did the book this way.
And ask him to write our happy endings.
Maybe that was the last page of the book.
That makes me think of what could that mean for the end of the entire series? What could be the end game of that?
I think they will get to that door. They will go through it expecting the author, and the whole series will reset from the moment Rumple's something happened with
Well,
the curse.
I think they're going to bring a moral about this because come back to what is the whole premise of Once Upon a Time and the stories they've chosen in all of this. Kitsis and Horowitz have said it's all about hope. And you hear that throughout the specials on the Blu-rays and DVDs. They talk about hope. And that's what they're trying to do, is tell a story about hope. And consider this, what greater hope can you give someone than to realize your destiny is in your control? I think that's what they're going to discover ultimately, at least for this season, is that your destiny is totally up to you, your control, your responsibility. If you're a villain, you probably won't get a happy ending because of your choices. If you are a hero, then you'll get a happy ending because of your choices, but it's all related to your choices. And I think that's what we'll discover in this season, because I really think with as much as they're talking about the author now, we are going to meet the author in this season. Maybe. Unless the author is in some way the villain for next season, or like the main character that will be brought in for next season. And then next season is all about stories being rewritten or something weird like that.
But isn't
Ooh.
if the point is hope and that you're in control of your own story, isn't there no author then? You're the author?
Right. And that could be the thing that comes to the end, is the author says something like, I was just recording your choices.
Right.
You're the one who wrote your own stories.
Right. And as far as like you said, then maybe next season will be retelling or rewriting. Is that what you said?
Could be.
I
I
have,
have no idea. It's
yeah,
too early, I think, to
yeah.
guess.
I've always imagined or thought that it could be possible, and I think I've said this before, that the end of this whole series, but this was before we knew the whole Balefire story, but I've always said that the end of this series will be that the Dark Curse doesn't happen and Snow and Charming get to raise Emma as from a baby. That it resets to that moment and that they get to live happily ever after as they should have before the curse. But then now we have all of the backstory with I'm not saying I want that to happen. I'm just saying I could totally imagine that happening.
Yeah, I think that would undermine the overall message of the show, though. That none of this can be part of a happy ending, even though this is basically real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree. I've ranted about that too, that you can have terrible things happen and still have a happy ending.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. When Emma met Hook there at Granny's diner, knowing now what we know about this episode, I really tried to rewatch this episode, trying to figure out at which point is Hook actually Rumpelstiltskin. And we know, I think for sure, when Hook went to see Belle there in the Granny's diner, he's definitely Rumpelstiltskin then.
Right.
But what about here when he sees Emma?
At the end, I had decided that he must have been Rumple the whole time, but I think not in this scene, because otherwise she told him everything about Regina, and not that I'm not sure he cares. I think he just suspects everyone of being up to something all the time and just treats them accordingly. But he never did tell the other women that Regina was just a double agent. So whether he didn't want them to know or he didn't know.
He hasn't told them yet. Maybe that's his leverage. He's good at keeping
True.
secrets. This is Rumple we're
Yeah.
talking about. So maybe... Go ahead.
I figured Hook was only Rumple. Rumple was only Hook when he was with Belle. That was what my assumption was. I never thought of the other being an option.
I think back to the other times that they've shown us a character pretending to be another character. And in nearly every case, unless it was a single moment like Cora pretending to be Regina when she took Dr. Archie Hopper from his office, all of the other times I think that we've seen someone shapeshift to disguise themselves as someone else, it ended up being that way for the entire episode. Zelina as Ariel, Cora as Lancelot,
Yeah.
Wait, was it Lancelot?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So just edit that
But so
question
then
out.
where's Hook?
Hook could be tied up somewhere. Who knows? I don't know. So I'm thinking because of that kind of precedent that they've set, that probably this whole episode, whenever we see Hook, it's Rumple. That also means that when the softball team and their pirate mascot talk to Regina, that's also Hook. Or,
I don't
sorry.
know.
So that means that when the softball team and their mascot went to talk to Regina in the library, that that wasn't actually Hook, that was Rumple. Maybe. If this entire episode we see, quote, Hook, unquote, it was actually Rumple.
Maybe. I felt that the when he went to the diner was the first time it was Rumple, but maybe not.
When he went to the diner to see Will and Belle, you're
Yes.
saying? Okay.
I don't know. It does make sense though, because if Rumple is dressed as Hook and he's just like strutting into the diner in the middle of the day, you don't know what, like, unless he knows that the real Hook is not going to be in there. That's kind of a brave move.
Right. Yeah. So he probably does have Hook somewhere else.
Oh, poor Hook again.
Yeah. With discovering the toasted sheriff's car, it makes me wonder, did Maleficent just light it on fire, or did Maleficent go all dragon and light it on fire with her dragon breath?
Well, and why was it out by the lake? I mean, maybe she picked it up and carried it there.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that would be a lot more fun. Regina's like, okay, guys, I hotwired the cruiser. Now let's burn it. Just burn it. And yeah, it would be way cooler if she's like, here, you guys get in the car. I'm going to take it somewhere. Then you get out of the car and then I'm going to burn it.
Let's have a good time and go light a sheriff's car on fire. Woo!
I'm glad that was Regina's idea of how to be a good villain.
I
Some
do
real
feel
trouble.
I do feel like Regina should maybe stick with Emma as a drinking buddy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we covered that. Okay, sorry. I got lost there for a moment.
I'm lost.
Shocking.
Back at the cabin, when the witches are talking to Rumple, he mentions that war is about to start in Storybrooke. And my impression of Rumple at this point is that he's not even interested anymore in getting Belle back. Even though, like, later in this episode, he asks her and discovers, like, what her thoughts are. I'm thinking he's at this point where he just wants to watch the world burn and get a new, different kind of happy ending.
Maybe. But, you know, villains tend to think they can have everything, especially him. He thinks he can do terrible things and he'll have some way to get the people he cares about out. And they will, for some reason, want to be with him. Maybe he's just going to take her heart.
And then I guess that's like a win for him, just not for her. Because he can make her love him well, no, he can't. Because
He can make her act like she loves him.
Like she loves him.
But I would think he would know how much he doesn't want to actually do that.
Yeah. Again, Rumple's comment that when war hits Storybrooke, everyone's going to have to pick a side. It made me think of his crazy Rumpelstiltskin comment in the pilot where he says the final battle will begin. And I know I keep bringing that up, but it's because like I like shows to stick to their pilot, and he said that. And could this be the final battle that he's talking about, where everybody has to pick a side?
It could very easily be, because consider this.
He never saw this.
In the episode Tallahassee, when he gets his power to see the future, we see and understand more that it's a very... No, it wasn't Tallahassee. In the episode Manhattan, where Rumple gets his future-seeing power from the seer, and we learn more about that power, we learn that his abilities aren't quite clear. The future is a little foggy, and it's open to interpretation.
Hmm.
Maybe in the pilot when he's, and this is my justifying the writers doing this really, but maybe in the pilot when he said the final battle will begin, what he foresaw is Regina comes to town, breaks the curse, and there's a battle. And did I say Regina comes to town?
You did.
I did.
I think.
Let me just say
Okay.
that. He sees that Emma comes to town, breaks the curse, and Rumpel and Regina are fighting on the same side. Emma is on the other side. Maybe he saw just those kinds of glimpses, and we heard them mashed together to say, and the final battle will begin.
Nope. There were lots of battles so far.
Yeah.
There. First of all, I'm not sure that he ever saw anything this far out. And second, he seems to be given to somewhat grandiose delusions himself. The first, whatever he called it, punch, which that's not really a war thing most of the time, but the first shot, whatever he called it, taking Pinocchio doesn't really count as starting a war, maybe. Not sure. And really, like I said before, when we talked about this, Snow also said in the pilot that Regina's motivation was her beauty. And we know that is so not true. So they can't really stick to the pilot too well. Words were spoken that should not have been spoken.
Yeah. This is the first time, though, that Rumpel has said anything kind of comparable, anything as intense as the final battle. Like, it's the first time he's used the word war, and everyone has to pick a side.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I think just from what we've seen of the supporting characters that are in Storybrooke, that might not be a bad thing. Like, they seem to be very apathetic. They don't seem to really be on Snow and Charming's side. They seem to be on the side of, I'm running my diner here and I don't really want to like deal with the villains anymore. They don't seem to be interested in actually getting their happy ending right now.
Right. And if presented with that option of getting their happy endings, that might make them choose sides then, and might make them choose the side of working with Rumpel. And then we do actually get a war in Storybrooke, which would be cool to see, a war in some ways.
I am not holding my breath.
That's good.
There were words spoken about Shattered Sight that were quite impressive. There were words spoken about Rumpel being out of Storybrooke that were quite impressive, and these things tend to not come to pass, so I'm just not going to get my hopes up. I'm sure a couple people will get knocked down. Someone may end up with a black eye, or at least a punch that should result in a black eye, but does not. And, stuff will happen behind the scenes. It's mostly going to be a Cold War, I think.
But do you guys think if Rumpel knew, so if he back in the past, he foresaw Emma as the savior, right? Well, he foresaw the savior. He then learned her name was Emma. And that's in the same episode where he referenced this final battle, and now we know that he knows that Emma's heart has potential for darkness. Could that all be connected? Because if Emma's heart has potential for darkness, that would be why he's trying to turn her to be on his side of the war.
Yeah. Although he isn't yet trying to turn her, unless he's doing it by manipulating the scenes. Like, oh, I could see him doing that with Hook. This might not be the first time.
Yeah.
This might not be the only time we'll see Rumpel impersonate Hook. He might do it again in order to turn Emma to the dark side.
Mm-hmm. Oh, goodness.
Well, as they are meeting in the library and bringing the whole committee together in order to hear from Regina, they're all just, they're like such amateurs at this. Even though Emma was a bail bondswoman, she's still being very amateur about this.
It's very similar to, like, if this were a romantic comedy and Regina were going on a date, it'd be like her whole family following her around to see how it's going and give her advice. That's it had that sort of feel to it. Like the whole family, even though they're not really her family, they are kind of Regina's family now.
Mm-hmm.
But
She's
they're
the
all
stepmom.
following her around. We just wanted to make sure you're not hungry.
Yeah. It's cute though. I think it's nice to show that they're actually protective of Regina, or that Emma is at least.
Yeah. It was funny to hear Regina say they feel the only way to get their happy ending is to destroy yours, and not mention I know where they get that.
Yeah.
I could sympathize in the past, by the way.
So Maleficent and Regina meet up to kidnap Pinocchio
Yeah, yeah, and thanks for saying kidnap.
as opposed to puppet nap.
Well, Maleficent said steal.
Oh, yeah.
They kept stealing something. Steal that. Well, it's called kidnapping in this world, so I don't know what they
'cause
called
he's
it.
a real boy now, not
Right.
But she did keep referring to him as a piece of wood, though, too.
A naughty little piece of pine.
I love that Emma's trailing them in Sword and a Ford because, maybe that's not as obvious as the little bug that might be destroyed now.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's destroyed, but oh yeah, that's right.
It's in
It's
for
got a hole
repairs.
in the windshield now.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
But it's not obvious at all to have a giant truck following you.
Hashtag fix the bug.
So Emma is following her this whole time and really being stupid about
Guys,
this.
we have to stop and give them praise for that little bit of continuity. I know it's just within the last few episodes, but she shouldn't be driving her car right now, and she's not. That's good. Good job. Sorry.
I think she's being so stupid like this because her senses are going haywire. She said how she feels like everyone in town is lying to her. Now add Regina to that mix as well.
So she just sort of stumbles into scenes where she really shouldn't be and just goes, lying, bad. You okay? I got your back.
Yeah. And possibly even Hook, and maybe just not Henry
yet, anyway.
yet. Yeah.
And not the pizza.
And Regina is also honoring Snow's request to keep the secret from Emma.
That's true.
Because you could see Regina kind of had this knowing look when Emma was mentioning that her parents, it seemed like her parents were lying to her and she was just, her superpower was going haywire.
You guys, what if, with the best of intentions, Regina tells Emma the secret, thinking it will fix things, and it sends Emma over the edge somehow, or contributes to her turning dark, at least for a while.
If anything does push her over the edge,
Yeah.
I think this will be that thing.
I would
Because
be
that
very
would be-
disappointed if Regina does not reveal this secret to Emma.
It would be very poetic.
Yeah.
Now, the first time that we watched this, I didn't notice that Regina did intentionally drop her phone.
I knew she did once we
Yeah.
saw it. But back with what you were saying about getting a better viewing experience so we can catch details, we could not read what was on the screen of the phone
Right.
on the first viewing.
Yeah, we just saw, oh, that's Regina's phone. Okay. And it did say, if you didn't see either, then the phone said, I got this. That's what
Yeah.
Regina typed out, dropped her phone on the ground for Emma. I did look at the map to see this, and there's something
good.
really ironic here, or crazy, about the map is to look at where Emma and Regina are at Marco's place is about a block away, probably, from where fake Hook or Rumple and Belle are at about the same time getting the dagger.
Well, they should have gone for a walk.
Yeah.
Where are we?
Still talking about kidnapping Pinocchio. Do you guys have
'cause I
anything
feel
else
like
to say about that?
We skipped a couple of...
I'm going to come back
Probably.
to that.
Oh, are you? Okay.
About the superpower thing, Jessica Olsen said Regina and Emma seem to be friends now, so when Emma brought up her superpower going wacky and thinking her parents were keeping something from her, I kind of thought Regina might say something. The fact she chose to keep Snow's secret was understandable too, since she is trying to keep her promise. I just thought it was an interesting dilemma for her to be in.
Yeah. She also lied to Emma.
Yeah.
She said no one's lying to you, and she knows that that's not true.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to keep a secret. It's another thing to keep a secret by lying. I feel, and because she's friends, I feel like she could have kept the secret without lying and making Emma's senses go even more crazy because now another person's lying to her.
In our forums, Senders said, is kidnapping a child evil? Even if it's being done for the greater good? Or is it a selfish act for Regina being done in part for her own greater good and happy ending? Why is it okay for Regina to take Geppetto's happiness, which is Pinocchio? I get it that the Charmings asked her to infiltrate the villains, but how much is too much? Where's the line between a noble act of infiltrating the villains and actually becoming one again? That's a tough line that I think Regina is going to struggle with, especially now that August is a man and Rumpel had just referred to torture working on August, but not on Pinocchio. So is Regina going to have to stand by, or worse, participate in some kind of torture on August? And would they even show that on a family show?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand the torture part.
Yeah, and we'll get more to that in a moment, but that would be to try and get the information out about the author. But meanwhile, while this is happening, the kidnapping, at the same time, Hook comes in, or now, actually, we know for sure, Rumpel comes in, and Rumpel knew about Hook's punching Will. Maybe that's because he saw it. Maybe he learned that during the brief time that Rumpel had Hook's heart.
That was all during the time that Rumpel... Was it Rumpel or was it Zelina? I'm getting so confused now. Somebody convinced him that, no, it was Rumpel.
Yeah.
I don't know why Zelina came into that mix in my head. My senses are going haywire. Maybe I should start over.
Go ahead.
So this was during the time, the punch happened during the time that Rumpel had reattached Hook's hand and convinced him that it was making him evil. So there was some recounting, either Rumpel was watching Hook or Hook was telling to some degree what had happened.
Yeah, that's true. Probably more like...
Or he heard through the grapevine or whatever. Yeah. But he had reason to be actually paying attention to what Hook was doing at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. That cake looked so delicious.
I know. It was little, though. It was smaller than it looked when they first showed it. I was paying attention to it.
Now we can have chocolate cake at the Once Upon a Time finale party, which, by the way, we are going to plan one as long as I stay in this state, because we are going to move out of our state. But there will be more details on that posted elsewhere probably. But we are planning to do a Once Upon a Time season finale party in the Cincinnati area. We'll have details on that as it gets closer, but it's looking like it will be in the middle of May. So plan for that if you can make it down to the Cincinnati area. It might be Northern Kentucky, it might be Cincinnati, Ohio. Somewhere in that area, we'll have a blast, have a season finale party, and do some really fun things there, and have great food, too. We got this feedback from Jessica Olsen about Hook, Rumpel, and Belle. And Jessica said, and Jessica said about Rumpel appearing as Hook, he really only did it to see Belle and get the dagger. So I don't think there would have been a point to him pretending with Emma and the Charmings. If he did then, he would know Regina was undercover. He might suspect something, but I don't think he was the version of Hook in on the conversation in the library. Yeah, I think that makes more sense that he, did it for that single purpose instead of this entire episode. But it goes back to, I think, usually when they've had shape shifting going on, they maintain it to a single episode or a single character, and it's the entire time that we see that character, either across several episodes or every time in that single episode.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because I seem to remember a certain Regina murdering Dr. Hopper scene. That was the only moment in that episode, I think,
Yeah.
that we
Right.
saw a fake Regina, but we did see the real Regina
Right,
as
and
well.
that was, like I mentioned earlier, a one-time instant that they made obvious fairly quickly
True.
that it was
Yeah.
Regina, and they made it obvious fairly quickly that it was Cora, not Regina.
Well, and Pongo, I mean, the author has been disguised as Pongo the entire time. Good grief. If that is true, that is not a spoiler. Realizing who's in town, there are stranger things that could happen.
I just thought of this. Why did Rumple pick Hook? Like, Hook kidnapped and tried to kill Belle at least twice. And, like, if he had undercovered as David or something, like, there's no reason for Belle to even trust Hook. She did, but how would he know that?
That's very true. I mean, she was mad about it not all that long ago,
Yeah.
as she should have been. I was very happy when she finally brought it up. And now they're like, she's okay-ish with swearing things to each other with hands on chests, which is very strange in and of itself. But when you bring that up, that context, yeah.
I guess, though, like, how many times did she stay with Rumple when he wronged her?
That's true. Poor trusting soul.
There on the beach, when Belle summoned the Dark One to come and face her, it was just so creepy, I think, the way that Hook turns and faces her.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that the first time. It
Neither did I.
was like his head was being moved from outside of the body.
And it's almost like he kind of glared at her with evil. His eyes might as well have just glowed red. I think that would have been a nice touch.
Little shimmer of gold in his skin.
Yeah. We're on fake Hook and Belle get the dagger. I don't have anything
Thank
else to say.
Neither do I.
I did, on rewatching, think that his mannerisms were rather Rumple-esque, which was a good job done by Colin. However, right as Belle drives away and he's got the dagger and he's about to poof, he grins in this sort of evil Hook-like way. And when the poof is complete, there's Rumple and he's not grinning. And I can see Rumpelstiltskin in Enchanted Forest kind of grinning that way, but not Mr. Gold. So, I don't know. Just saying.
By the way, here was a great thought in our chat room while we're doing this live. Sarah said maybe Belle told that, quote, Oxford professor, unquote, about her new BFF and how she and Hook were working together to translate something. Maybe she said, my friend Killian and I have been working together for a while to try and figure this out. Can you translate this for us? Maybe not to say my friend Hook and I are trying to figure out how to free the fairies. But yeah, that could make sense. Some way that he got some of that information to know about them.
Yeah, that's true.
When they're back at Gold's shop, I think that Rumple's having Belle swear an oath is a sign that we're not going to see Rumple impersonate Hook again. Because he's basically setting up for, I'm never going to be Rumple again. At least I think so.
Well,
Never going
and
to be Rumple or never going to be Hook.
he said not to speak of it to each other either, right?
Right. Which is a perfect setup for, we will never speak of this again. It's like Fight Club.
Yeah.
First rule of the pirate swear is you don't talk about
It's the Knife Club.
it. Dagger. Yeah, anyway.
It had to rhyme with fight.
I liked the red rose on the counter. Just made me think of Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, a guest appearance from Gaston I just didn't expect.
Well, the rose thing is a little interesting to me. And the symbolism of it, that is, because Belle said that Will makes her happy. She makes her smile. She didn't say anything about she has feelings for him or anything like that, but she did kiss the guy,
Hmm.
and she is spending a lot of time with him and stuff and wanting to share her chocolate cake with him, which you don't do with someone unless you care about them. Well, and the red rose is, am I the only one who does that? The red rose is also a little symbolic. Now, keep in mind, Will gave it to her.
Mm-hmm.
There are actually symbolisms to different colors of roses. A pale blended tones A pale blended tone is about sociability and friendship. Red and yellow roses as a blend are about joviality. Orange roses, enthusiasm, desire. Yellow is for joy, gladness. White is for reverence and humility. Light pink is admiration and sympathy. Deep pink is gratitude and appreciation. And red is love and respect.
So just to be careful, give carnations instead. You don't want to send mixed
And
signals.
just make them gray.
Sure. Too much meaning in roses, I say. It's scary. Not
It
really.
it hurt my heart a little bit for Belle, even though she's not really my favorite character on the show, when she said that Will was exactly who he says he is.
Hmm.
And I'm like, oh, poor girl, because she's just gotten out of a relationship with Rumpelstiltskin, who just lied to her. And now I can't imagine that Will has like come clean about his Wonderland past that we don't even know if he remembers or not. So either he's not who he says he is intentionally because he doesn't want to bring up whatever happened, or he's not who he says he is because he doesn't know who he is. And therefore, she's still, if she does fall in love with him, going to get her heart broken.
If Rumpel was smart, he would impersonate Will instead.
Maybe next time.
Yeah. Before we talk about the last bit of this episode, I'd like to ask you to do something for us, and this would help us a lot, and that is go to oncepodcast.com/podcast awards and vote for Once Podcast under Best Produced every day through March 24th. But don't stop there, because we have several podcasts in Noodle.mx Network, and several of those podcasts are up for finalists awards, and several of those podcasts are finalists in the awards as well. So please vote for, we have 5 different podcasts in different categories. Once Podcast, Are You Just Watching, Beyond the To-Do List, The Audacity to Podcast, and The Productive Woman. We'd really love it if you would go vote for our podcast, and please do that every day through March 24th. It only takes a couple minutes, and you can see how to do it and see some of the other podcasts we recommend that you vote for in other categories by going to oncepodcast.com/podcast awards. Please vote for us every day through March 24th. And we really have our hopes that we might be able to take home a medal this time, or an award. And then we can put it up on the wall in the barn, and Regina can get really upset about it. But please visit the site, oncepodcast.com/podcast awards. And you can even sign up there for an email list that all we're doing is just reminding you every day to go vote. And we're including a free compliment with every email. So if you want to start your day with a compliment and feel great about the day, go sign up for that list at oncepodcast.com/podcast awards, and please vote for us every day. And thank you for your support. This is really about how awesome you are, not how awesome we are. Now, if we don't win the award, that doesn't mean you're not awesome. You're awesome for helping us, regardless of if we win. You're awesome for listening, for writing reviews for us in iTunes, for subscribing to the podcast, sending us your great feedback, chatting in the chat rooms when we do this live, and all of that stuff. And by the way, speaking of the chat room, we've got a bunch of people in there with us tonight. Our next full discussion live episode is going to be at a different time in the day. I can't tell you yet what time that will be, but I will be in San Diego, actually. So there's a possibility what we might do is that Hunter might actually be hosting the podcast with us, because we would actually be in the same city then. So there might be a cool opportunity. And if you are in the San Diego area, I'll be hosting a meetup Wednesday morning near downtown San Diego. I don't have the exact details on that yet, but if you want to show up for that for breakfast or brunch, then please email feedback@oncepodcast.com and put in the subject line San Diego if you want to meet up with me Wednesday morning for a brunch. It will be, we're going to go Dutch with it, but if you want to show up for the Dutch brunch, then please email me and let me know, and I'll send you details when I have those. So let's get to talking about this last thing that happens. They've got August now, and he's back to Man August.
Great acting by Ian Bailey.
You
I
look
don't like
genuinely
it.
scared. I
don't
can't
like
see this going well in any direction.
Oh, there's so much in what you just said. I can't either. And I'm not necessarily just talking about the plot. Well, okay, I guess I am, but I think it's going to be unpleasant for more reasons than one.
I thought that they turned August back into a boy because Ian Bailey didn't want to be on the show anymore, but that could have just been a rumor. He looks a little bit different, and I'm guessing that since it's a family show, he's maybe just going to spill the beans if he knows anything.
That seems more August-like to me.
And it might not be that he knows the final answer because we're only, 3 episodes into this half of the season. So he might only be able to say, all I know is this thing, or all I know is I go here and I get the pages, or something like that. All I know is I picked up this typewriter and these books were with it, or something where he doesn't actually know the author, but he'll be just one of the clues.
Yeah. And torture assumes that the right thing is to not spill the beans, and that the person that is to be tortured is planning to do the right thing, even at great personal cost. It took turning to wood and then getting tased somehow to make him do something selfless, brave, and true before. Who's to say that he won't just go, yeah, I'm really confused. I've been a child again for quite a while, and now I think I just want to get out of the situation.
Well, and what happens to him after this? Do they kill him? Do they turn him back into a boy? Does he remain August? I think he'll remain August, and he'll get to ride his motorcycle again.
See, the sneaky thing, if it's possible to turn him back, which maybe it's not, maybe Rumpel can't do that, although he said that he can with others. Maybe, it would have been better if Regina had snuck in, maybe looked through a window, put them to sleep so they never saw her. Then they take Pinocchio, do whatever they're going to do, turn him back into a boy, put him back, and then they wake up.
I could see them doing that.
No one
still
would know. Well, but I guess they could work on the memories too, but they totally saw Regina there.
Well, that could be explained away by
You
Pinocchio
fell
and
into your
Geppetto
head.
just waking up and saying, oh, I thought I saw Regina, but I guess we were dreaming, or we must have fallen asleep while we were working.
Maybe. That'd be really shaky.
Yeah.
Do you think they're making the rocking horse for Snow and Charming's baby?
Oh, that would be cute.
I forgot to mention that. But
Geppetto did make other stuff for baby Emma.
yeah.
I thought they were going to turn the horse into an actual horse that was going to actually gallop for just a second.
Alina Alina Harris sent an idea of maybe the direction that this season might go and end on a dark note. She said, what if the villains did succeed and tip the balance and the villains won and the heroes didn't in the season finale? We think Emma might become a villain, but since the Charmings went to great lengths for that not to happen, the villains kidnapped baby Neil and magically aged him to 21 years old, and instead of Emma being the greatest villain, baby Neil is. Next season could be them trying to save baby Neil and tipping the balance back. I don't know about the Baby Neil thing, but the idea of this season ending with the villains getting their happy ending could be a really nice cliffhanger.
Here's another possible cliffhanger. The heroes win, but Emma uses dark magic to do it.
Yeah, that would be a good story.
And then doesn't really know what to make of it, or is pretty much on a rampage, one or the other.
Yeah, what if Emma's the villain of next season?
Mm-hmm.
That would be so weird if they did that. I could kind of see them doing that, but that just kind of messes with so many things.
Well, evil isn't born, it's made.
That's true.
I mean, they'd have to definitely not just stick her in a cell and have Rumple turn her to porcelain. They'd have to redeem her, but yeah, it would be disconcerting.
Well, we would love your continued thoughts on this episode of Once Upon a Time. So please comment on the show notes over at oncepodcast.com/186, or post your ideas and share your thoughts and theories and discuss other people's thoughts and theories in the forums on oncepodcast.com. We'd love to connect with you on Twitter. Please follow us on oncepodcast.com. We'd love to connect with you on Twitter. Please follow us at Once Podcast and follow each of us individually. I'm Daniel J. Lewis on Twitter at The Ramen Noodle.
I'm Jeremy Laughlin on Twitter at Phlegon. That's Phlegon.
I'm Erin, and I'm on Twitter at Erin J. Cruz.
This podcast would not be possible without our great team of volunteers. So special thanks to Corbin for sorting our feedback, Jack writing our show notes, John Buchanan producing our episodes, Hunter Hathaway and Jacqueline providing our spoilers. You'll hear from them in just a moment. Jacqueline and Matthew Paul moderating the forums, Jacob helping with screenshots, Keb managing our timeline, Aliascape moderating the chat room, and my fellow co-hosts making this podcast together with me. And until next time, remember, before you start throwing stones, you might want to take a look in Once Podcast is a proud member of Noodle.mx Network. Find more of our award-winning and award-nominated podcasts to make you think, laugh, and succeed at Noodle.mx. Let me just redo that ending. I realized, wait a minute, I'm reading the wrong one.
No.
Your timing was perfect, though.
At least with the music part. Okay, there we go. Redone ending. Until next time, I think we should get out of here and go find some real trouble. And thanks for listening. Yeah, I'll go with that. And then here's the closing. Big thanks to our sponsors for this episode of the podcast. If you'd like to be one of them and make a one-time donation, an automatic monthly donation, or a per episode donation, please go to oncepodcast.com/sponsor and remember to support us in the podcast awards at oncepodcast.com/podcast awards. Okay.
Cool. Wow.
I'll play the spoilers in a moment for people.
Oh. I was just looking up. I, for some reason, had it in my head that in the original Snow White, they changed her clothes into her wedding dress or something, but that's just, I hallucinated that or something. Too much sleeping curse.
You should have some aspirin.
I actually worked overtime today within the confines of my normal working hours, so like I'm even more tired. Like that means I didn't have breaks so much. So like by choice, because overtime, but makes my brain tired.
Because of reasons.
Are there any more examples we could put into a compilation of characters defining this world's magic? We know for Rumple, it's ketchup. For Maleficent, it's aspirin, apparently.
Well, from Rumple, it's condiments.
Condiments in general, that's right.
Yeah, he didn't say just ketchup.
Well, like, what about like the technology comments? Are those what you mean? Like the magic box was saying evil things about me?
Nah.
Not really.
Mhm.
The cell phone that what was Hook's word?
I press the Emma button and it calls her.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna stop my recording. How about that?
Yeah, how
How
about that?
about you stop that recording? 'Cause that recording's no good.
I hope it's good.
Just kidding. I have no idea where that came from. I was only half thinking about the
You
words that were
just do
coming out of
that.
my
You
mouth.
just make up songs.
It's
As he
true.
does.
As I do.
I just said songs in like a very
Sounds.
songs.
I make up them sounds.
Okay, what am I have to put what on my computer? This?
Mountain Dew, if you're familiar with. I always forget. Are you a Homestar Runner fan?
No.
Oh gosh, you have to be.
I don't even know what that is.
What?
I did start
How
watching the new show that's on after once, and it's very addicting.
Really?
addicting?
Well, like I want to know
Hmm.
what happens.
That makes it sound fun. Oh, yeah.
Secrets and lies.
Yeah.
How does this? How does this go with Homestar Runner? Watch anything on Homestar? Probably not any. I'll
What my
go so far
comments?
as to say
Oh, the cheat is not dead.
the
Is
chart is not dead.
um I'm just typing a note to you in chat.
Okay.
The cheat is not dead. I would keep apologizing for being a villain. It's probably true.
$10?
And by chat I mean group chat in Hangouts.
Oh, okay.
Wow, that's so private.
Uh,
So yeah, as a villain, I'd be like, "I'm so sorry that I turned you into a dog and then burned you." Hello,
Oh,
Lucy.
wait,
Lucy.
is what working in Audacity?
No, that's old. Your
Oh,
next comment.
Hello. Never see you
Do you need
anymore.
glasses, Daniel?
You're
well,
shaking.
I guess I didn't need to do that. Sometimes I do that by habit.
I
Calm
actually
yourself,
find this
Yago.
laptop really hard on my eyes, so I don't know if it's because everything's smaller or if it's because of the type of screen it is.
It could be things are smaller. Well, the text is a little bit lighter when it's such sharper like that, but you can go into like accessibility and like make it bold the text a little bit more.
I just find I'm putting on glasses more often.
All right, well, how about we go ahead and end this thing, play the spoilers. Unfortunately, it sounds like Aaron, you won't be able to join us next week because I'm pretty sure I can't record
Late.
in a way that works with your schedule. Yeah,
Okay.
that
Yeah,
late.
I work, so I can't.
I'm thinking what we might do. I don't know, because we've got microphone situations to try and figure out with Jeremy if he were to join us. Because I'm taking the microphone with me that Jeremy would use.
So
So
when do you leave?
I leave on Tuesday,
Okay.
and there's a thing Tuesday night I'll be going to. Wednesday morning is when I want to have the meetup in San Diego. Hunter will probably come to that. And my thinking is, and Hunter and I will need to figure this out, but there might be some place like maybe a library or I don't know, maybe just somewhere that will be quiet enough that Hunter could bring her microphone. I would have mine. We could record there, so that's two of us. But then I have the microphone that I'd want Jeremy to use. So it's haven't figured it all out yet.
Okay.
Or I could just completely take two different microphones instead. I might do that.
It sounds very complicated. But yeah, just let me know if there's any major thoughts that I feel I need to say. I can always
Yes.
just put them in the notes like Jacqueline usually does. Oh, I think I lost you.
Oh, it's Dropbox is syncing. That's why.
Oh, I haven't saved mine yet. But...
So I loaded homestarrunner.com on another tab, and there are different page titles. There are all these different, there are like 26 different menu screens it can have, and they're kind of selected at random. And there's one, and it's Homestar wrapped in a towel in the shower. And I had gone away from the tab, and I look at my 3 tabs open, and one of them says Nakers with 3 exclamation marks. And I was like, honestly, my first thought was, what is that? I don't remember opening a link recently from Dachshund. But surely if there's something awkward over there, it's something Dachshund sent in the chat room. But no, it was homestarrunner.com. I was very confused and slightly amused. I was shocked and slightly embarrassed at the sight of Homestar in a towel. Ha.
You guys
All
are
right.
weird.
Yeah, we are. You would be too if it happened to you.
Touche.
Don't start me singing.
Okay. Have a good trip, Daniel, and I guess I'll see
You next fall.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll be on normal schedule the week after next.
Okay.
Sunday nights will be normal, at least until April.
Yeah. Is there an episode that's not? Is there a Sunday that doesn't have an episode? Oh, Easter.
Yeah, and there's a Sunday that I'll be in Las Vegas. So.
And there's a Sunday that I have a meeting.
Oh, okay. I hope they're the same Sundays, but we'll figure that out.
It's the 29th.
Okay, everyone. Stick around for the spoilers. Please don't chat about these spoilers in the live chat room. But you can chat about them in the forum chat room at oncepodcast.com/forums. Bye, Aaron. Thanks for joining us. Oh, she already left. So here we go. Spoilers coming at you.
Hi, Oncers. I'm Hunter Hathaway.
And I'm Jacqueline.
And it's spoiler time for Once Podcast. Season 4, Episode 15, Poor Unfortunate Soul. Hook leverages his complicated history with Ursula to find out what she knows about Gold's endgame. Gold and the Queens of Darkness torture August for information about the author as Emma, Mary Margaret, and David race to find him. Regina grows concerned for Robin Hood's safety while she struggles to maintain her cover with the villains. In Fairy Tale Land flashback, when a restless young Ursula enlists Hook's help to run away from home, she soon learns it isn't wise to trust a pirate. Yay! So we've got this one's written by Andrew Chambliss and Dan O'Horgan and directed by Steve Perlman. And we have some fun guest stars this week.
Yes, we do.
Do you want to talk about them?
Well, we know, for instance, of course, we're having the Queens of Darkness come back.
The Ladies of Darkness. Queens of Darkness according to ABC, but Ladies of Darkness.
Yes, if you are a hunter, you are kind of refusing to call them the Queens of Darkness.
Yes.
We do have Joanna Garcia Swisher returning as Ariel, which, I'm excited about because we haven't seen Ariel in a while.
Nope. And I like her.
I do. I like her. We have Sean McGuire returning as Robin Hood. And we also have Christopher Gauthier returning as Smee, which makes sense since it's a Hook-centric flashback. We also have Ernie Hudson as Poseidon and Tiffany Boone as young Ursula. And she's quite pretty. I've seen a picture of her. She's going to, I think, do well as young Ursula.
Yay. I can't wait. It looks like it's going to be a good episode. I love The Little Mermaid.
I do too. I'm a little worried because the actress who plays adult Ursula, Maren Dungy, did say that she doesn't have any scenes with Ariel. So I'm kind of confused as to how they're going to connect Ursula and the Little Mermaid, but we shall see.
Okay. So we did get a promo and some photos this time around, but I feel like the promo didn't really show us anything.
It focuses more on what's going on between August and the Queens of Darkness, Rumpel and Regina, rather than any kind of, flashback letting you know what's going to happen in the past or teasing anything really between Hook and Ursula, even though Ursula throws Hook off a ship with her tentacles, which delighted me to no end.
And we did see a quick little snippet of Robin Hood and Regina.
Yeah, and Regina, they kiss.
Yes.
And then Regina says something like, "What are you doing here?" And we don't know who she's talking to.
Yeah, so we didn't really get much of anything. And unfortunately, no Canadian promo this week.
So they always normally have different scenes, too, so that's kind of a bummer.
Come on, Canadians, we need your promos.
Blame
I can't get
Canada.
them. But we did get a couple photos.
Yeah.
And they didn't really show much again. It's like the promo. The Ladies of Darkness with Gold and Regina have August all tied up and gagged.
Right. There were a few behind-the-scenes photos that never made it onto, the official sites that we found, but there were some floating around Tumblr. We do see Hook in the past on the Jolly Roger. We see young Ursula, who's wearing a blue and gold gown, and she appears to be holding something. I'm not sure what it is.
Okay.
And then we do see one picture of Ernie Hudson as Poseidon.
Yes.
And he is upright. He's on two legs.
Yeah, I kind of thought that was a little strange.
I feel like they don't have enough in their budget to make this a heavy underwater episode, so I get the feeling that all the people that are mer people are going to be on land somehow. I think they might be wearing bracelets.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't even look to see if he had a bracelet on. I should have. But yeah, that's pretty much all we have for you in way of the next episode. We do have a couple little extra fun things, such as episode 421.
We do have a title.
Yes, go ahead.
It is Operation Mongoose Part 1, and it is written by Edward Kitsis and Adam Horowitz.
Yes.
And it is going to be a 2-hour finale.
And so there's a part 1 and a part 2.
Yeah, I'm betting 422 is Operation Mongoose Part 2.
Yeah.
We'll get the confirmation in maybe a week or so, but I'm betting that's what it is.
So that's kind of exciting, though. So we do have that. So I wonder if they're going to find out more about the author in that one.
I think so. I think the Queens of Darkness plot is probably mostly going to be over by then, and we're going to be focusing on strictly the author.
Yeah, because, we find out a lot because the one right before that is Mother.
Right. And we do have some pictures that have come out for the finale, but we're going to hold back on those for now just because they're big.
Yes.
And we don't want to give too much away this early in the season. This is one of those times where we're going to hold back.
And we did see an interview with Eddie Kitsis and Adam Horowitz. They went through a little question and answer phase where we learned some things, but most of it was pretty much can't say.
Yeah, if you've ever read interviews with Adam and Eddie, it's their typical yes, no, can't say.
Yeah, but we did learn that Pongo, our favorite Dalmatian, will cross paths with Cruella.
Yeah. We will learn more about page 23, which is the Regina and Robin kissing page that Robin found inexplicably last season.
Yes. One thing that's different that they said is Maleficent is not a fairy in this show.
Right, and that's kind of surprised me because I know a lot of people were theorizing that she might be the Black Fairy.
That just throws me because Maleficent has always been a fairy.
Right.
So that's just weird to me.
They did answer the fact that Rumpel's quest for his new happy ending does not include any kind of plans for Balefire, but that the loss of Balefire does weigh heavily on him and will be addressed.
Oh, and with that, I saw in another article that we will see full Rumpel. And so I'm going to guess that means we're going to see full Rumpel in Storybrooke because it was talking about the whole Rumbell and trying to, I guess, win her back or get his happily ever after. So
we will also not see Atlantis.
No. And if Emma does go evil, she will be known as Black Swan.
They won't be exploring the consequences for Snow and Charming sharing a heart this year, but it might be something they tease later on.
And then we have a whole lot of I can't say.
Yeah.
So that was all, whenever they were asked questions, it was about who's going to die. They said, is someone going to die? And they said, we can't say. What happened to Anastasia, Will's love interest from Wonderland. They can't say if we're going to find out about that.
Which is unacceptable.
Well, they said they can't say, which means I'm going to guess it's probably going to happen because they would have flat out said no.
Yeah, I just kind of wish they had said something like, yes, you will find out what happened to Anastasia, but we're not going to tell you right now what happened. Because we're almost 15 episodes into this season with Will as a new regular, and we still have no idea why he's in Storybrooke. Where's Anastasia? What happened in Wonderland?
But it also, they can't say if anyone's going to say I love you to each other. So like Regina and Robin, or Hook and Emma, or Belle and Will. We've got all these new couples now.
Yeah.
And the final one that they said they can't say is if anyone is pregnant.
Right, and that sent up some red flags.
Yes.
Because there are rumors that one of the characters on the show is pregnant based on some TV tricks they're doing about the way they are dressing her, the way that they're shooting her.
Now, is she pregnant in real life? Do we know that?
I don't know. For those who aren't up to date yet, sorry, we're talking about Lana Parrilla, who plays Regina. And I honestly don't know if she is. They haven't said one way or the other. We try not to speculate on stuff like that, but there are some TV tricks that we think they're pulling to maybe give the illusion that Regina might be pregnant.
Or that she's just pregnant in real life and they don't want to bring that into the show.
Right.
Okay, I'm just going to do a quick shout out to Chloe, who on Twitter said, we just changed your entire view of the show, and we thought that was really cool.
Yeah, we did. Thanks, Chloe.
Thanks for listening. That's all we have for you this week. I'm Hunter. You can follow me on Twitter at Bit of Pixie Dust.
I'm Jacqueline, and you can follow me at punk_bunny_87.
Until next time, Oncers.
That's our show, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night. We'll see you Sunday night.